Merry Christmas. I'm David Scandura.
And I'm Justus Burkett.
And today we're here to find out, is Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 1 and 2 the greatest movies ever made? Oh!
Garbage Day! Huh? No!
Welcome to the greatest movie ever made, the show where we watch a movie and tell you if it's the greatest movie ever made.
Punish!
Garbage Day!
Also, just I'm gonna be that guy for a second. Technically, you should have said "Are Silent Night at Deadly Night 1 and 2."
You know,
the greatest, not is.
I did think about it. It felt weird coming out of my mouth that way, so I said it the way that I did.
Yeah.
Suck my entire dick in
It's grammatically incorrect, and I've decided that much as you are adopting the character of Santa Claus for Christmas, I'm just going to adopt the character of guy who cares about grammar. That's my holiday character, which was that's probably some Ebenezer Scrooge-esque characteristics there. He feels like he'd be in replies on social media being like, *R. You don't use an apostrophe like that.
I'm canceling the bit. A movie that is so thoroughly entertaining and compelling that while you're watching it, it's the only thing that matters in the world. I'm David Scandura, joined as always by my co-host and I don't know, fucking guy who decided to be a grammar Nazi. All of a sudden, Justus Burkett.
Sorry, I really don't know why I derailed us with that so thoroughly. Yeah, hello. Here we are once again. It's the holidays to bring you not one, dear listener, but two.
Yeah, our
films
first
week.
Double feature episode.
We've never done that before. Maybe we never will again. Who knows? Is this a one-off? Is this going to be a recurring type of show that you see pop up again? Fuck if I know.
Right. But in some ways, we are also just talking about one movie.
That is more literally true in this case than any other sequel scenario I've ever seen. Even in Evil Dead 2, they had the decency to reshoot new footage when they were doing the recap of the first movie. Not so here.
No,
not in Silent Night, Deadly Night.
No, because we of course are talking about the first two installments of the Silent Night, Deadly Night holiday horror franchise.
Yeah.
A first film that was released to a lot of controversy and pulled from theaters.
Yes.
And a second film that famously used 30 minutes of footage from that previous movie.
And also has that meme you've seen.
Yeah.
I guess the people making this movie realized that your budget goes twice as far if you only shoot half a movie.
And this is my fault for foisting this upon us, because I was like, well, it would make sense to talk about Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Yeah.
But I really want to talk about Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2.
It's the weirder one, for sure.
And you can't really talk about one without the other, I don't think.
Right. I mean, we could have just done the 2 episode.
Yeah.
And talked about all of the recap stuff from 1 as, a recap of 1, which is how it functions in the movie. But also, there's stuff in 1 worth talking about, too.
There is stuff in 1 that's worth talking about.
Yeah.
Listener, in case you don't want to subject yourself to 3 hours worth of Silent Night, Deadly Night, including an extra 30 minutes where you'll just watch the same movie that you already watched again, just watch 2.
Yeah.
I think to get the most out of this, 2 is probably, if you got 90 minutes and that's all you have, throw on 2.
It's the sillier, weirder one. I might disagree with you. I kind of think if you're just going to watch 1, my recommendation would be the first one.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get into it. I think we are coming at these movies from different perspectives here.
Potentially.
Yeah. Before we get to the films, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. It's the beginning of the week. So, not as good as I would be if it was the end of the week. But
hell yeah, brother.
You know what I'm saying? It's fucking Monday. But yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I don't really have anything interesting to report in terms of media recommendations. I just listened to. I've been on a little bit of a Beastie Boys run, and I just listened to, for maybe only like the second time, the album "Ill Communication" of theirs in full. And it's really good. Which it's a well regarded. Popular album.
Once again, coming at us with the.
I bet there are multiple of our listeners who have not listened to "Ill Communication" by Beastie Boys.
That is a fair point, because it's like Paul's Boutique gets a lot of praise.
Yes.
License to Ill gets a lot of praise.
And also some of our listeners just might not have delved into the world of Beastie Boys outside of the singles. That's totally possible. There's very famous bands that I have that relationship with. So, if you've only listened to like Sabotage and Fight for Your Right to Party and No Sleep Till Brooklyn, and you're looking to enter album territory with the Beastie Boys, Ill Communication. Check it out.
Yeah,
it's a good one.
It's a little ironic of you to become the grammar police on this episode when I
can't fucking
mostly
speak.
Can't talk. Like both of us just tenuous grasp of the English language.
That's why the bit is funny, is because I'm not actually that type of person.
It comes back around and it's funny again.
It's funny because I'm bad at proper grammar and also speaking and knowing English. How are you, David?
I'm good.
Good.
Start to the week, wish it was the weekend, but I had a good weekend.
Brother. Sorry. You did that when I said that.
Yeah. I took my dad out for his birthday dinner, played some video games, had a good time over the weekend, and feeling okay about the start to a new week. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
As far as media recommendations, I have, I watched a short film that came out this year, or that is in the process of coming out this year, I guess, called Tape Face.
Yes.
Tape Face is a 45-minute horror film shot entirely on a camcorder for an estimated budget of anywhere between $0 and $10.
Cool.
And I can only assume that most of that budget, if it was, a $10 budget, was spent on tape.
So the title is pretty literal here.
Oh yeah, Tape Face?
Yeah.
Loves his tape. Particularly on his face.
Yes.
It's a short directed by Derek Ryan and Chandler Bawley. They've made a few other films that are like available on Tubi with more budgets. I guess this is like kind of a proof of concept for an upcoming film that they have.
Cool.
And it is genuinely like creepy and unsettling and disturbing, while also like having all that charm of being a low budget independent film. So you have to take that into consideration when watching it. I don't believe it's currently available to stream, but the directors provided me with a screening copy.
Dope.
Of it. So when you get the chance to watch Tape Face, when it's more widely available, please give it a shot.
Yeah.
It's a fun little 46 minutes.
Neato.
And it feels like we're witnessing the birth of a new horror icon.
Hell
to
yeah.
rival the likes of Longlegs and Art the Clown and the Smile Demon and all the other horror icons that have had their year.
Yeah.
Move over, bitches. It's time for Tape Face.
It's the year of Tape Face. Yeah. Although maybe not move over fucking Johnny Nash from, is that his name? From In a Violent Nature? What's his name?
Oh, I don't know. Johnny, yeah.
Oh,
Johnny.
Sorry, Nash is the last name of the guy who directed it, I think.
Yeah.
So
I do love Johnny.
I made him the director's son, I think is what happened there. But yeah. He's my horror icon of the year. We'll get to it in our best of the previous year episode. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about two films, one of which is half of one film.
Yes. More like a third.
Yeah.
There's like 30 minutes of footage, and I clocked it, and it catches up to the new footage at about like the 40-minute mark.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
we're talking about Silent Night, Deadly Night,
Yes.
1 and 2.
1 and 2.
So this was my first time with the first one,
Uh-huh.
and this was your first time with the second one.
You hadn't seen the first one.
No.
I guess I didn't know that. Maybe we talked about it and I forgot.
We watched them around the same time last year, I think.
Yes. I watched 1 for the first time last year. And like you said, this was my second time with the first time with the second one, and you're the reverse of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched the second one first because the second one is just the first one again, but with more shit in it.
And I watched the first
meme.
one because I heard it was good.
So the original Silent Night, Deadly Night from 1984
Yeah.
attracted a lot of controversy when it was releasing. It was they didn't think the Santa Claus angle, like the killer Santa Claus, would be an issue because like they cited things like Christmas Evil and a Tales from the Crypt episode that had used the evil Santa Claus shtick before.
Right.
They were more concerned about the depiction of the Catholic Church, which,
Right.
to be fair,
Yes.
valid concern with
Yes.
this film.
Yes. An alternative title for this franchise, based on the 2 entries I have seen, is Santa versus Nuns. Because truly, both of these movies ultimately are about Santa wanting to get revenge on some nuns.
Yeah, I mean, like, our protagonists are slasher villains, but let's be clear here: the real villain of this fucking movie these fucking movies is Mother Superior.
Yes. Mother Superior is like Machiavellian evil.
So this had a limited release first off in the Midwest and the Northeast because they were concerned about the portrayal of the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
But the advertising focused on the killer Santa angle. I mean, you see the poster, it's Santa with the bloody axe climbing down the chimney.
Yeah.
And that led to a lot of protests from parent groups.
My hot take on that.
Yeah.
Dumb as shit. It's so fucking stupid that people had a problem with that. Because, like Santa's not real, so,
Sure.
like, who gives a shit?
I think it's also, like, they also cited that it was, like, coming out at Christmas, and someone involved with the film reflected on it later and was like, maybe if it'd come out around Halloween,
Yeah.
that would have been better, but I don't know. And it's also, like, you watch Silent Night, Deadly Night, and there's nothing in this movie that I haven't seen before.
No, totally, yeah.
It is a by the numbers meat and potatoes slasher movie.
It's not doing anything, like, really special or exceptional, yeah.
Yeah. It's got the tits, it's got the gore.
Yeah.
It has that sort of psychological angle to the character.
Yep.
But like it's not doing anything particularly revolutionary or disturbing that I think these parent groups would get up in arms over. But again, like slasher movies in the 80s, famously Siskel and Ebert were very anti-slasher movies. They were anti this movie. So it TriStar pulls all of the advertising for the film about 6 days after the movie's release. The movie leaves theaters shortly after, so it was only in theaters for about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Still made a decent amount of money for like its $750,000 budget.
Right.
And then part 2 comes along, and it sounds like the studio was like, "Hey, rework some of this footage into a new movie."
Right. Since we barely got to release this one.
Yeah.
Nobody saw it anyway. It was only in theaters for 2 weeks. They won't know that's recycled footage.
Right.
Surely a thing like the internet will never exist where people can view these back to back.
And then they cobbled together the old footage and the new ideas that they had for the film, which didn't quite work, like add up to being like a 90-minute movie on their own.
Yeah.
So Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 is a movie born out of laziness.
Right, yeah.
And I sort of respect that.
You can kind of palpably feel it, not just in the reused footage, but you can sort of palpably feel the laziness in the original part of the movie.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's like, oh, we're really like using as few locations as possible, showing as few extras as possible. Like every location is like a room with 2 people in it, or the most desolate fucking
Yeah, they
when they're in that movie theater and there's like 4 extras. Or the completely empty street.
Yeah, that movie theater looks like just like a room, like maybe like the screening room at the studio, right?
Yeah.
With the amount of chairs that are in there.
It looks like a smaller college lecture hall.
And they shot part 2 in like 10 days. You know, it's really quick and dirty.
Yeah.
So those are the two movies that we're dealing with here.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting. The tones vary wildly between these two movies because as much as they are like, you know, reusing the same footage and very much telling the same story, they do feel pretty distinct and different to me.
Yes. Yeah. I would say one feels a lot more like it's trying to be sort of serious, right? And dark. And I think it achieves that successfully some of the time, right? So I think it's like the darker, meaner movie. I feel like one has a real mean streak to it. Two feels sort of knowingly goofy in that sort of like postmodern slasher way. Like it feels like a little bit more like spiritually akin to like Texas Chainsaw 2. Right? Where it's like we're commenting on slasher tropes, like the guy in the movie theater is like saying a bunch of like self-aware slasher movie dialogue and shit like them showing the movie in the movie as the movie that they're watching at the movie theater. Like that was a moment where I was like, oh, this movie knows it's silly.
Yeah.
Like it's being very intentionally like broad and goofy and
yeah. I feel
over
like
the top.
you can feel that like push and pull with the tone in that second movie.
Yeah.
And even down to Eric Freeman's performance as Ricky, which we will get to.
Oh, yeah, we will.
He talks about like getting conflicting direction from the filmmakers as far as like, you know, wanting it to be more over the top and hammy and crazy and ridiculous, and him wanting to deliver something that was more understated and menacing.
Okay, so that's how we ended up with that performance.
Right, yeah. And thank fucking God we did.
Sorry, I was trying to do his laugh. He just spends like almost the whole third act of the movie doing that, and it's fucking delightful.
He is a slasher villain that leisurely walks towards you while laughing the whole time.
It's so funny. And then he's just like shooting people and being like, so he doesn't even need to get to you.
No.
Even the slasher is lazy in two.
Yeah.
Right? They give him a gun and he's like, well, now this is really easy.
The climax of the film is him trying to kill a stroke-addled elderly nun in a wheelchair. And that nun puts up a decent fight.
Yeah. He almost doesn't make it. Okay, so we need to talk about one first, though.
Yeah.
So I don't, unless you had any other background shit. We can
No,
just
that's really what I have. I mean, both of these movies have been regarded as like cult classics these
Yeah.
days. The rest of the series, 3 continues the Ricky story arc. 4 and 5, they abandoned it.
I heard 4 is like insane. I don't know anything about it.
I think
but I heard
Brian
it's
Usna
crazy.
directed 4.
Oh hell yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And Bill Moseley plays Ricky in 3.
nice.
And then there's a remake at some point that's just called Silent Night. That's like a very loose remake. But like 1 and 2, 1 is I think is regarded as like maybe an underseen, underappreciated holiday horror
Yeah,
classic.
Yeah.
And then 2 has the notoriety from the memes, and of course people just know that it's reusing so much footage from the first one.
right.
Yeah, let's talk about the first one.
Yes. We open with a great title card. It's a classic 80s horror title card where it like zooms at the screen, but I like that it does it really, really slow. And there's like kids singing a creepy song about Santa Claus, very opening of Nightmare on Elm Street. And it's like a wreath where it's like Silent Night in like Christmassy font, and then fucking like animated, like 2D animated blood splashes on the screen and runs down, and then in blood it says Deadly Night.
Yeah.
It's just so silly. I love it so much.
I really, really like the title card.
Yeah.
It's a good setup to the movie. However, immediately I'm confronted with this fucking kid playing Billy. Holy shit, this child sucks.
He's a very bad child actor. He is not delivering the lines in any way that sounds like they're coming from a real grounded or emotional place. He's just reciting dialogue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just egregiously like grating to me, where he's just like, when's Santa gonna come? Just
Yeah, he's quite annoying. I like a little bit older Billy better when
Yeah.
we get to the orphanage. That kid's
orphanage
good.
kid's good.
Yeah,
I agree.
that kid's good. But this first kid, you're right. It's just like, it's grating. It's like nails on a chalkboard. And so when he almost dies in this cold open, you're kind of like,
Yeah.
not a huge loss.
Yeah.
Not a huge loss if Killer Santa finds him.
One thing that is absent from the second film in
Yeah.
the reused footage is Grandpa.
Okay, yes. So
And
yes.
Grandpa is pretty great.
Yes. So like Billy and his family are going to visit their like Billy's like catatonic grandfather.
Mhm.
Like he's completely unresponsive to stimuli. He just sits in a chair and stares off into space,
Yeah.
right? And while they're doing this, by the way, first of all, we know for sure this takes place in Utah because 2 separate signs have the word Utah on them, and we zoom into them, the mental hospital and the orphanage. But some actually pretty nice landscape photography as we're doing these wide shots of the car driving to the mental facility. Just some nice, like, oh, look, it's the natural beauty of the state of Utah.
Silent Night, Deadly Night 1 is a real movie.
Yes, it's pretty well shot.
Yeah.
They spliced in some footage that is like less finished than the rest of it for the unrated cut.
Yeah, I think that's the most widely available version.
It is, yeah. And so that stuff doesn't look great, but it's because they like put shit back in or whatever.
Right, but then you get to see like the antlers going through Leanna Quigley's stomach and shit like
you
that.
do. Oh yeah. You do. But anyway, so
But-
so the scenic drive is nice, and then we get to the mental hospital, and the scene with Grandpa is easily the best part of the first hour of this movie, I think. Or maybe 40 minutes, because a complaint that I have about this movie is like there's this cold open where some violence happens that we'll talk about. It's not a cold open because it's after the title card, but you know what I mean. And then there's like a 30-minute gap between that and more violence happening. There's like a really long time.
Yeah.
And so it's in this movie's favor that this grandpa scene is so insane, because it kind of gives you something to latch onto for those 30 minutes where you're like, yeah, but this movie did do that crazy shit with that catatonic old geezer. So maybe I should hold on, even though this is getting a little boring.
Yeah, I think the 1-2 punch of Crazy Grandpa with Santa robbing the convenience store is a really strong opening to this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Grandpa's totally catatonic. The rest of the family goes away, and little
they
Billy's
leave
just
Billy.
living
They're like, hey, like fucking 4 or 5-year-old child, wait here with your catatonic grandfather for a second while the adults all step into another room and shut the door, which feels insane, but yeah.
I think the on the drive over, the parents are like, well, Grandpa's, can't hear you, and he's in the mental hospital or whatever. And Billy's like, so why are we going then? Like, Jesus Christ, dude.
But also, like, I don't know, fair point, because what his mom is saying is like, he doesn't even know you're there.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, well, yeah, he has a point. Just saying.
Grandpa's not actually catatonic, and he immediately leans over to this child and is like, Santa will punish you if you're naughty, right?
So the implication is either it has to be one of two things. Either this man is not catatonic and he is faking not only for this kid but for his actual daughter or his actual son and his wife, right? And the staff of this hospital is an elaborate ruse to prank his shitty fucking grandson. Or he snaps out of actual catatonia, and the only thing he does is tell this kid that Santa Claus is coming to whoop his ass. And either one is insane.
Either one's funny. I mean, I think it's pretty clear that like he's just been fucking around with people for however long.
Honestly, we should all be so lucky.
Yeah.
If I live to an age where, you know, I can no longer live on my own and I'm in some kind of care facility, you best believe that pranks are how I'm going to be occupying myself.
Up to and including bullying children and telling them that Santa is evil.
And creating a serial killer inadvertently. 2 serial killers, in fact.
Yeah.
In the process. Yeah. Yeah. His lines here are so insane. This guy is making a meal out of this little be scared of Santa monologue. He's got a pretty good voice, and this performance is like actually pretty intense.
I think the best performances in the first Silent Night, Deadly Night are all performances that were significantly cut down in the reused footage for part 2.
Like
and that's
the boss
grandpa,
of the toy store,
the boss of the toy store, and like the shitheel storeroom manager who has a fucking power trip.
Yeah.
All of those are the best performances in this first movie, I think.
Yeah. So the grandpa is like he's like, all the naughty ones he punishes. And then my favorite line is like the last thing that he says to him is, you see Santa Claus tonight, you better run, boy, you better run for your life. It's bananas. And so this kid, like, understandably has the fucking shit scared out of him by this. And then mom and dad come back and grandpa just goes back to being catatonic, which is awesome. And so this kid's like, Grandpa talked to me. He said Santa Claus was coming to punish me. And his parents are like, that's impossible. Grandpa,
Yeah.
Grandpa is fucking totally gone.
Shut up, little Billy.
It's awesome. It's so great that this geezer scares the shit out of this kid, and it is even better that nobody believes him.
Yeah. And then a guy dressed as Santa Claus robs a convenience store and just like and shoots the fuck out of this cashier.
This cashier who's being real mouthy immediately. Like,
Yeah.
Santa Claus walks into his convenience store and he's like, oh great, if it wasn't enough that I gotta hear this Christmas music on the radio, now I gotta serve this fucking dipshit. What does your fat ass want? And he's like being really rude. And so then Santa's like, empty the cash register. This guy goes for a gun and Santa just shoots him.
Just blows him away.
Yeah.
It's pretty great.
Yeah.
And then
He comes out of the convenience store and he's like, $31, Merry fucking Christmas. Just like a hilarious caricature of a criminal.
yeah, I do love that we just randomly cut to this convenience store robbery. Like, there's no setup, there's no anything. It's just, oh, Santa Claus is robbing a convenience store.
Yeah, we never learn who this guy is or what his
No.
deal is.
The paths of these intricately laid out plot lines converge on the side of the road later, where Santa's car is broken down and the family's coming upon him, and little Billy's going off like, don't stop, don't stop.
Yeah, that is a very annoying line delivery when he's just yelling, don't stop, don't stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Santa Claus, comes over to the driver's side window.
Yeah, because they like pull over to help him. He's like acting like he has a flat tire or some shit. And they're like, well, what do you need? And he's like, I'm gonna fucking kill you with my gun.
He bends over and sticks his head in the window and then just pulls out the gun and shoots the fuck out of the dad.
Yeah.
And Billy runs off, hides in the bushes.
Yes, there's also a baby in the car, so it's like the mom and the baby in the car.
Baby Ricky.
Yeah.
Who somehow remembers this whole event.
When he said that shit, when he was like, the doctor's like, how do you remember this? It was so long ago. And he's like, I was there. And it's like, bitch, you were fucking 6 months old.
And then he drags the mom out of the car and, rips her shirt off. And
yeah, it's very like both of these movies are just full of the vaguest sexual violence you've ever seen.
Right.
Where what sexual violence seems to be in the Silent Night, Deadly Night franchise is ripping a woman's top open so her breasts are exposed and then rubbing your face kind of near-ish to them. That seems to be what every dude who is committing sexual violence is trying to do in these movies.
Yeah, it's like it's definitely, I think, intended to be shocking.
Yeah.
And intended to be exploitative, but it doesn't cross over into like the really disgusting realm of a low budget movie who it's like the only selling point they have is
Right.
like
It's not like
we got to get tits in the movie somehow, and so we're gonna do it using rape.
right.
Um,
But this is like, this occupies a weird squishy middle ground where
Right.
it's like sleazy and gross and probably like misogynistic and weird. But at the same time, it's like not so transgressive that you're like unable to watch it or
Yeah.
or enjoy the movie in spite of it. It's just kind of like, okay, like, and this is here.
and this
you
is
know?
here too, right?
Yeah.
And Santa cuts her throat.
Yeah.
And then we jump ahead to the orphanage.
Yes. So now we got the
years
good
later.
the good kid.
Good kid.
actor.
I love this kid. I think he does a really good job. Fuck ass mullet though. What the hell are these nuns doing letting this child run around with this mullet?
Yeah. He's got a big like front tooth gap too, and I feel like the big front tooth gap plus the mullet, it's just like that's territory he should not be allowed to venture into. This kid either has to get braces or get rid of that mullet. He can't be doing both.
So he's clearly been traumatized from this whole situation.
Yeah.
Something that the nuns are aware of, that Mother Superior is aware of, and seemingly not very sympathetic to.
No.
She's
basically like, you have trauma? Well, we'll have to beat it out of you.
Yeah. All the only solution that we have is to force Christmas upon you.
Yes.
And beat you repeatedly.
Yes.
I like the drawing. He gets in trouble for this drawing of like a decapitated Santa Claus
With
and
like a bunch of like swords going into it.
And I'm like, I don't know. I drew shit like that when I was in school.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. When I was in like I don't know, elementary, middle school, some of the drawings that me and my friends were like doodling in the back of class, if the teachers had gotten their hands on them, we'd have all been fucking sent to counseling.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We in my history class in high school, we had every day we would do a drawing and we would pass it back and forth and people would add things to the drawing.
Yep, me and my friends did the same thing.
We got very into making triangle shirtwaist factory jokes. So those would show up in our drawings a lot, where there'd be like a building with a bunch of stick figures on fire jumping out of the building.
Yeah. We mostly had one guy in the group who would add tentacle hentai to everything, but he wasn't like good at drawing it. So it was like stick figure tentacle hentai, but it was like basically if you passed it to that guy, you knew that you were going to see a tentacle going into a stick figure's butt the next time it came around to you. Yeah.
Good times. Good times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's also like an implication here that he associates sex with the traumatic event because
he for sure has his wires crossed,
right?
Because he saw his mom's boobs and then her throat get cut, and this movie is Freudian psychology.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, now you just get a boner when you see violence.
And there's multiple times in this movie when he has flashbacks, and the movie just replays that same clip from the beginning of the movie almost in full.
Yes.
And that feels almost as lazy to me as reusing 30 minutes of footage from the first movie in the second
Correct.
movie.
This first movie is not like it is trying harder than 2. But it's still like it's a cheap little fucking slasher, whatever.
Right.
But yeah, between the two movies, I was starting to wonder how many times I had seen certain moments, right? Like the Santa Claus, like putting the gun into the car to murder the family.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you see that at least 3 times in the first one. And then in the second one, you see it at least 2 more times. So I'm like, are we at like 5 with that shot between these 2 movies?
We haven't gotten there yet, but in the first one, I was starting to feel that way of like the B-roll establishing shots of different toys in the toy store.
Oh yeah,
that they keep cutting to try to make some sort of like ominous Kuleshov effect.
Right, the like nodding Santa Claus that you just see a bunch of times.
Yeah, and the nutcrackers and shit like that. And I'm like, you could lose some of this, man. Like.
Yeah. Speaking of being able to lose some of this bit at the orphanage goes on way too long. I think this prologue, so I actually wrote it down. This movie's like 82, 84 minutes. It's less than 90 minutes. We spend a full 26 minutes with the two kid Billies. It is like less than an hour that Billy is an adult in this movie, which I think is like kind of a big problem with this movie. Is just spend so long fucking around at this orphanage.
Yeah, especially because I don't think the psychological aspects of this movie are particularly very interesting or well done.
No, they're not complicated enough to spend this much time on.
I
right?
was getting being reminded of Christmas Evil while watching this, which I don't believe you've seen.
I haven't seen it, but
Christmas Evil is basically a guy believes he's Santa Claus by way of movies like Taxi Driver or Maniac. Like, it is a deep, occasionally like gross and unsettling psychological study of a man believing that he's Santa Claus.
That's fun.
As like a horror movie.
Yeah.
Really, really interesting stuff and really compelling. Rough around the edges and stuff like that, but at least from a script perspective, a lot more interesting than what Silent Night, Deadly Night has to say.
Because literally the whole thing with him is he believes that Santa exists to punish naughty children, and then he like got his sex and violence wires crossed when he saw his mom get killed. And like that's all there is to. There's nothing deeper than that to explore here, and yet the movie spends like about half of its runtime between shit in this 26-minute prologue and like shit later on that. And it's just like there's just not that much there, you guys. Like,
and what I'll give part 2 as like a leg up on this one is like the way that part 2 showcases, as silly as it is that he is like he's triggered by the color red.
Yeah.
He he knows about the events of the first movie really, really well.
Yes.
The movie does a good job of setting those things up within the world of the movie so the audience can understand them, and then intercutting between those scenes and then Eric Freeman as Ricky, like reliving those scenes in the mental hospital with the therapist there.
Yeah.
Like it cuts back and forth between those scenes and then and then Ricky reliving that same moment.
Yeah.
And I think it's done a lot more elegantly there, which is a funny thing to say about a movie that reused 30 minutes of footage from the first one.
One of my notes, though, about 2 is that I do think the shortened version of Billy's origin story in the second one is how the first movie should have done it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I literally think, like, if you pulled the Billy origin clip montage that they put together for the beginning of 2 and just like stitched it in instead of this 26 minutes of setup that is in the first movie, you would just have a better movie, I think, because it just like it lets the air out of the balloon way too much. But yeah, a couple things happen at this orphanage. We can breeze through it because, like we were saying, it doesn't matter that much. But he sees a couple having sex, and it kind of triggers something in him. We see that. We also see that he's like having nightmares and is being abused at this Catholic orphanage.
They're like tying him to the bed and whipping him.
Hit with a belt.
I do think the actress playing Mother Superior is good too. I forgot to mention that.
I think the other nun, Sister Mary, who is like the one who is like kind and empathetic towards Billy and like helps him get his job and stuff. I think that actress is good in both of them because it's the same actress in the second one. And she only shows up for like the last like fucking 2 minutes of 2. But I think she's good in this first one.
Yeah. I do like when Mother Superior tries to force Billy to sit on Santa's lap, and Billy fucking socks Santa in the face and knocks him out of the chair.
Yes, that is very
This
funny.
fucking kid has a killer right hook. Holy shit.
Yeah, punching the shit out of Santa Claus is... Anyway, but so... we get to the end of this orphanage montage basically with him just being traumatized again. There's a series of several him being traumatized at this orphanage,
right? And
then it kind of just ends on like a freeze frame of his face looking all scared or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's at the end of the Santa visit after he punches Santa Claus.
Yeah.
I think.
Yep.
Ricky is also there. I think the first movie does a bad job of setting up Ricky at all. He's just sort of a background character, and you don't get any sense of who he is. Like even physically, it's like
Yeah,
he just looks like all the other fucking kids.
I kind of think it was the thing where they were like, well, he'll have a little brother, and if this becomes a franchise, because the slasher franchise was well established at the time this was coming out, so they were like, we might make more of these if this one makes money, so like sprinkle some shit in there that we can maybe follow through with the sequels. But they like didn't know whether they were going to make a sequel or not, so they were just like not putting that much attention into it.
Right. But he grows up. He's you know, a teenager now. And by teenager, I mean he looks like he's 26.
Yes, he's an adult man. I like it's funny because like Sister Mary is like bringing him to the toy store because it's like the day that he's gonna start work, and the guy's like, no, like we don't need a kid in the stock room at this toy store. And then she's like, oh, well, are you sure you haven't seen him yet? And then he gets like a full body, like from the feet up reveal shot that just because he's just yoked, right?
Yeah.
It's just like a full on, like, we're gonna pan up this dude's entire body for like a very, very long time so that you can see that this is the guy who was like born to work in a warehouse. and the toy store owner's like eyes like practically bug out of his head. He's like, "We'll say."
I love Mr. Sims. I love him a lot.
Yes, Ira Sims, the owner of Ira's Toys. Yes.
Yeah. What a fuck. This toy store seems like a very hostile work environment.
The vibes are insane.
Yeah.
Because there's like a guy who looks like Joe Pesci who immediately starts shit with Billy.
Yeah. He's the like storeroom manager or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's always got his feet up on his desk and isn't doing shit, and he has this fucking insane power trip.
Yes.
And there's always like, yeah, fuck you, Billy. Move these fucking boxes for me,
Right.
you piece of shit.
And he's trying to sexually assault at every turn this young woman who also works at this toy store who kind of has a thing for Billy, it seems like. And then there's like a couple of middle-aged people who also work here.
Yeah.
And then Ira Sims, who is like simultaneously the world's best and worst boss. Because he seems like kind of cool, but he's also like, I'm gonna lock you all in my store immediately after the shift ends on Christmas Eve and like force you to get drunk with me.
Yeah.
He's like practically like pouring the bottle down Billy's throat. He's like, no, you have to drink this. Which we've seen Billy refuse alcohol before. Yeah, it just seems like a chill guy until he like isn't. Ira Sims.
Right. I kind of think the toy store stuff might be my favorite part of this first movie.
Yeah, me too.
Because I mean the second movie just jumps ahead to he's dressed up as Santa Claus, and then it's the night of the night of the Christmas party, and then he goes on the rampage. We have a little bit more build up in this first one. But like there's the montage, which is kind of fun, and there's an original song that they wrote that's
it's
just
so
like
funny. Where it's like, you're working hard at the job you got,
and it's Christmas. It's so funny that they wrote an original song for it.
Yeah.
But I also just, I don't know if it's like nostalgia or whatever, but there's like, you see like Mousetrap board games and Star Wars toys and all of that stuff. I think it's a well-used setting.
Yeah, and basically all we see in this montage is Billy being like decent, a hard worker, a good guy. There's a couple really funny moments in it where like at one point he's like reorganizing like some toy for little girls or something, and we just like cut to a shot of Mr. Sims in the doorway, and he just nods at him like, yeah, that's my boy.
Yeah.
And it's like very like sitcom. It's so silly.
It's so sitcom.
And then there's like another moment later where the guy who looks like fucking Joe Pesci offers Billy some scotch, and Billy's like, no, I got my carton of milk right here, and like practically like winks at the camera. It's so fucking funny.
It's almost, he like pulls the carton of milk out of his like lunch bag or something.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm all set with my whole milk.
We can skip ahead. He becomes like the Santa Claus for the store.
Right. The other Santa Claus like doesn't show up or whatever, and they need a Santa. So they put Billy in the suit, which is a bad idea, it turns out.
Turns out Billy and Santa has a not a good combo. I feel like at some point this kid would have to know that Santa Claus isn't real. Like he's not He's not 17, 18 years old getting this job and still being like, Santa Claus is real.
Yeah, I think Santa Claus is maybe less of like a literal reality to him and more like a mind virus that's connected to his issues with violence and sex, right? It's like he's like a manifestation of that is Santa in his mind. But yeah, so he's the Santa. He turns out to be a pretty shitty Santa, surprise, surprise, because this girl is freaking out on his lap and he's like, you have to calm down. Just being really intense.
You know, Santa punishes the naughty children.
And it's so funny that he's just fully threatening this little girl in front of her mom. And the mom's like, he's so good with her. Yeah. And then so he makes it through the shift by like the skin of his teeth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the shift ends, and like I said, Mr. Sims is like, "All right, everybody, we're getting turned the fuck up." His exact line.
He goes, time to get shit faced.
Yes, 7 o'clock. It's over. Time to get shit faced.
Yeah, after locking the front door.
Yes.
That was a very good moment.
Yes.
I appreciated that, having only seen the second film before.
Yeah.
I was like, they should have left that in.
Yeah. So they these toy store folks are getting wasted here. Joe Pesci looking motherfuck is like ragging on Billy a little bit, and then he like grabs I think this girl's name is Denise.
No, it's Pamela.
Pamela. Is Denise somebody in one of these movies?
Denise is Leanna Quigley, I think.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, so this is Pamela. Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this guy then tries to sexually assault this woman in the back.
Yeah. Again, by just ripping her shirt off and like,
rubbing his face near her boobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, still not a good thing to do.
No, you shouldn't do that to a woman unless for some reason she wants you to. I don't know why she would, because again, it's kind of just like cheek to rib cage is kind of what's happening. But so Billy, like, I think he senses that something is up.
Yeah, because he's into Pamela. Like he's had fantasies about her and dreams about
that's
her.
true.
They've shared some moments.
Yeah.
So he's still in the Santa outfit. Everyone's getting drunk at this point. Mr. Sims is forcing his employees to get drunk.
Yes. Except for that one lady who seems really into it.
Oh, I was going to say, I think this lady wants to fuck the shit out of him.
Oh, she absolutely does. When he's gone later and she's like, Mr. Sims, over and over, I was like, I know what she's calling for.
He follows them to the back, to the storeroom.
Yeah.
And Andy's roughing Pamela up. And Billy gets triggered and has a flashback and goes.
It's like the moment from like Kill Bill.
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah.
Like,
and he strangles him with the Christmas lights, and he goes, naughty or punish or whatever he says. Those are that's his dialogue for the remainder of the film.
Punish. I fucking love it every time he goes punish. It really, really works for me as a catchphrase for a slasher. I'm like, yes. The naughty I don't like as much, but I really like punish. The kill with him strangling Joe Pesci with it's not actually Joe Pesci, but the guy who looks like Joe Pesci.
If it was Joe Pesci, I think Joe Pesci would be the slasher villain in this movie. I think he would try to kill Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci would kill him and then go on a kill crazy rampage.
I want to see that movie, and he dresses up like an elf instead.
Yeah.
Garbage day, motherfucker. Punish. Yeah, so that kill is kind of lame, the strangling with the Christmas lights, but immediately after, so he saves a woman from being sexually assaulted, yay, but then he immediately murders her, so not
yeah,
so
because he's like, didn't you like what I just did?
Right.
I killed your assaulter.
And also he can see her boobs, and I think that just makes him go into he just sees red and immediately has to murder when he sees boobs.
Yeah, and stick the knives in her stomach upside down and then like pulls it up.
Yes, and that one's better than the Christmas light one.
Yeah, I think it's a good one.
Yeah, so then like Mr. Sims starts being like, hey, everybody's been gone for a while. Like, they're all in the storeroom. Like, what's going on? So he goes in there and gets killed with a hammer.
Which is off screen.
Yeah, but you see the aftermath on screen later.
Yeah, we see the aftermath when the I don't remember the lady's name.
Yeah, the lady who
wants to fuck him.
She wants to fuck Mr.
She has a silly hat that she wears all the time.
Yes, her hat is very silly. Yeah, you kind of get like a mini end of a slasher movie here with her, where it's just like cat and mouse. Like he's just chasing her around for like a decent bit here.
Yeah, he's stalking her with the axe. She gets the drop on him at one point by like setting up her hat on top of some boxes so he sees it through through a gap in the shelves.
Yeah.
And then she's hiding behind some boxes and like pushes them on top of him.
Yes, and grabs the axe and doesn't hit him with it, but she does do a pretty smart thing, which is like she's just gonna break the fucking door or the window rather, to the toy store and just jump out. But before she can do that,
apparently this toy store has an archery section
with sharp like hunting arrows, because he fucking shoots this lady and it just goes all the way through her chest, and it's like in through the back, out through the front, like through her heart.
There's I think the antler kill is really great, which is like literally the next thing that happens.
Yeah.
But I think the bow is probably my favorite kill in this movie because it just comes out of nowhere. There's no setup to it. There's no like I don't know, even in the the montage or the toy store stuff before this, it's never set up at all.
Yeah.
Just suddenly
there's just a hunting section at this toy store. But I love that she's like going to swing the axe at the window, and he gets her attention before he shoots her by saying something like "stop" or "no." It's just really funny where he's like, "Wait, don't do that. Hold on." Yeah. So then everyone at the toy store is dead, and Billy moves on his punish crusade.
Yeah. Sister Mary eventually comes to the toy store, finds all the bodies, and alerts the police. This is our B plot that doesn't really matter at all until the very end of the film.
Yeah. I do think, to your point of this toy store stuff being kind of the strongest point in the movie, I do think this is where like some of the meanness that I was talking about before is showing up, in that we're just like lingering on these kills like a little longer than like some slasher movies of the era did. And also, like, after he leaves and when Sister Mary comes in, there's just like multiple shots of just like the carnage and it's basically like silent. It's like atmospheric, like ambience. Right. And just like the camera just continues to show you these fucking dead people.
And more B-roll of toys.
Right. And the B-roll of toy stuff like kind of works for me in spots, and then other times I'm like, all right.
Well, yeah, and the second half, everything after this toy store sequence becomes more of traditional slasher stuff where it's like we've got teens having sex and we've got bullies that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
And then we have a little bit of like a showdown with a cop.
Right. But this toy store stuff does feel a little bit more like bleak and mean and cold, because like these people were just minding their own business. Like they were just like chilling, Right.
And that's I wish this movie leaned into that tone more. Yeah. Because I think it's trying to, but it's not very successful in my opinion.
Yeah. Not to say, by the way, that having sex as a teenager means you're not minding your own business, but that's like a well-established thing in slashers.
Yes, of course. I wish the rest of the movie was a little bit more bleak and mean, because I think parts of this sequence make me think like, oh, maybe those parent groups were sort of onto something.
Yeah, I mean, it is a little bit like transgressive.
Yeah. And if I think the rest of the movie had committed to that harder, I think for me personally, it would just make it more notable.
Yeah.
Like, especially when, like, I think Christmas Evil is like legitimately creepy and mean and transgressive. And then shit like Black Christmas, which is, very, very well done, very serious, and like, does the disturbing juxtaposition of this horror story happening at Christmas really, really well.
Yeah, easily the most effective version of that I've ever seen.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that.
Yeah, whereas this is kind of like, you get it a little bit in this toy store scene, and I agree. I wish
Yeah.
it had been more of the movie. But
But we have to move on to
Yes.
Scream Queen legend, Leanna Quigley, and
Yes.
her two friends hanging off her chest.
yes, this movie makes ample use of her willingness to appear topless, because basically she's almost every moment she is on screen, she is topless. There's like 1 minute of footage of her with a shirt on, and then like when we get introduced to her, she's making out. She's like babysitting.
Yeah.
And it's classic slasher scenario. The babysitter's making out with her boyfriend. They're doing it on a pool table, which is kind of a fun little touch. But yeah, it's like her shirt is on when the scene starts, and 1 minute into the scene, he unbuttons her shirt.
I do really like this like 70s man cave that they
Yeah,
got going on.
It's pretty dope. This little pool room that they got.
I like the giant painting of the tiger. I really fixated on that. It's like the most prominent artwork on the wall is this giant painting of a tiger.
Yeah.
And then of course there's like the deer antlers and stuff too. But yeah, we get a bit with like, oh, the cat wants to come in.
Yes.
And then
Because she heard its bell.
yeah, so she opens the front door again with her top off.
Yes, she puts on jean shorts to go answer the door, but no top.
No.
And even if you think you're only answering the door for a cat, still a bold move.
In the dead of winter in
Like,
Utah.
I'm a man, and I probably wouldn't go to my front door topless and open it.
My dad would.
Yeah.
But
Maybe I
that's,
just haven't hit that phase in
that's
my
sort
life
of a
yet.
dad thing.
Yeah, maybe I need to have a child
You know,
before I'm...
You come over to your friend's house and their dad's just running around without a shirt on.
Yeah. But yeah, so the cat does come in, but what also comes in is Billy. Punish! And he like kicks the door down, because he saw boobs, so now she has to die. 'Cause,
Yeah.
That's how his brain works.
Yeah. And the boyfriend's fucked off at this point. He's gone to another part of the house or whatever.
I think he just stays in the pool room. Like he hears banging and he's like, "Huh, weird." And then he goes and checks it out eventually.
Right,
Right.
because he has to he comes across Leanna Quigley's body.
Yes.
But what happens first is Billy picks her up and impales her on these deer antlers,
Yes.
elk antlers, reindeer antlers. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Whatever it is.
Easily the kill of the movie for me. It's pretty well done. They cut to some reinserted shots of like the antlers piercing her skin and then like going further through, and then the finished product where she's hanging off of it looks pretty good.
Yeah, it's a really striking image.
Yeah.
And if there is another like negative I have about the second one is the second one doesn't add back in the unedited footage.
Yeah.
So a lot of the violence in that second movie is bloodless.
Yeah.
But
I do think that the first movie is a lot gorier than the second. There's one kind of big one in the second one, but I feel like overall you just got more blood.
Yeah.
Blood and guts in the first
Yeah.
one.
But yeah, it's a good kill. I think
Yeah.
it's probably the most memorable kill in the movie, along with the sledding kill, which again is coming right up here in a little bit.
Yeah.
But that bow and arrow kill was really hitting for me this time.
Yes. And so the boyfriend downstairs has, heard banging around, his girlfriend screaming at the top of her lungs, and eventually decides that he needs to like go check on this.
He wanders in and somehow doesn't see the young woman suspended from the rafters.
Right,
by-
until he dramatically
antlers.
turns around and sees it, and
Yeah.
it's a huge reveal. This motherfucker, by the way, kind of looks like Paul Dano. Did you notice that? He looks a little bit like Paul Dano.
Similar vibe for sure. Yeah. Similar genre of man.
Yeah. And so similar genre of man to Paul Dano here gets attacked by Billy as well. He how does he he throws him out the window. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. They struggle a little bit, and
He comes at him. He comes at Billy with a fire poker.
Yeah, and knocks him down for a second. There's a little bit of a struggle on this one, but this motherfucker eventually just goes out the window.
Yeah.
Also, he goes through the window, and we get a shot later when Billy leaves the house of the aftermath, and the window also went through him.
Oh yeah, the big shards of glass sticking out of him are a real nice touch.
It's frankly ridiculous how many shards of glass he was impaled with by being thrown through this window. Like, there's like so many in him.
I think there's just like 2 or 3, but they're big.
One of them on his side looks like he's almost bisected.
Yeah, he's
like
He's
enormous.
got a fucking shard of glass the size of a dinner plate
It's
in his stomach.
So crazy. But so my actual favorite scene in this movie probably is this moment with Cindy. So Billy kills the babysitter and her boyfriend, and then the kid here, whose name is Cindy, he like goes up to, and there's kind of like a really intense moment here that I think is pretty well acted by both of them. I think the child actor does a pretty good job, and I think the guy playing Billy is like pretty awesome in this exchange, where he's like, have you been good? And the kid's like, yeah, and he's like, you haven't done anything naughty? And she's like, no. And so as a present, he gives her the box cutter that he used to cut open Pamela's stomach earlier. And I love this kid like looking at it and being like, what the fuck? It's a really good, eerie, kind of like, again, like mean and bleak moment, and the kind of thing that I wish the movie had more of. I think it's like one of those moments where you're like, okay, yeah, I can see people getting upset about this.
Yeah. Yeah. And the second movie flirts with violence against kids too, where like during the rampage, like a kid comes up to Ricky. I think the moment's done a little bit better in the first one though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it is like he's like gifting this child a murder weapon. It's pretty rad.
Yeah. So the cops are out looking for a guy dressed as Santa.
Yeah.
We
this
get a little
gag
bit with
is
these
so
two.
fucking stupid, and we see it in both movies.
It's literally just here for no reason.
It's literally, and they
It's
put
just a
it in
pad
the
out time.
second one, so I had to watch it twice, and I was like, wasn't funny the first time, guys.
There's a dad climbing into. Okay, first of all, I don't know what the fuck this dad is doing to begin with. I can only imagine like he's got the ladder up against his daughter's bedroom. He's gonna crawl into her bedroom dressed as Santa Claus and surprise her. And then the next thing I'm assuming he's doing is going into his wife's room and fucking her in the costume.
Yeah. Although you don't want to wake the kid up first and then go fuck your wife in the maybe he just fucked his wife in the costume. And then
right. Went outside?
And then you wake up the daughter because now, you know, she's not going to be awake when you don't want her to be, you know? Yeah. Based on the wife's reaction, she knows that he's sneaking into the daughter's room.
Yeah.
So it's nothing nefarious. I do think it is like what you said, where it's like, yeah, he's going to like wake her up and be like, oh, Santa Claus is here or whatever. Which is funny because when she does wake up, she immediately knows it's him.
Yeah.
Even with the beard and everything.
He doesn't have the beard pulled down yet.
Yeah. And she's like, Daddy.
But during this whole thing, the cops burst in and, you know, it's nothing.
Yeah.
It's
a nothing joke. And I don't understand why it was in one movie, let alone two. But yeah, so it's basically just to show that the cops are hunting a guy that looks like Santa Claus.
Yeah.
And then they decided to make it into a bit. But so then like we check in with the nun, Sister Mary, and she's like, been sleeping at the police station. The police captain is like talking to her, and they're talking about Billy, and she's like, well, I understand how he thinks. And the cop guy is like, well, then we should be able to figure out what he's gonna do next. And Sister Mary's like, oh shit, the orphanage. So then that kind of sets up our like final set piece here.
We do have the sledding kill first.
Oh, you're right.
I can't believe you skipped over that.
Sorry, I think I had shit out of order.
It's okay. Yeah. But basically what happens is these two kids, and again, I say kids, they're like adult
well,
adults.
The two that are there initially are kids.
Yeah.
And then two 35-year-olds come to bully these children.
Yes. The main bully here looks like he's approaching 40.
Yes. He looks like a retired NFL player.
And is divorced and making child support payments.
Yes.
And they steal the sleds away.
From two actual children who are a foot shorter than them. And yeah, and then so bullies love to go homoerotic sledding, I guess. And
they're really into the sledding too.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, woohoo, let's go.
Yes.
Awesome.
I think really what they wanted was just an excuse to hang out with each other. But unfortunately one of them gets their head cut off.
Yeah.
Which rocks. It's a good kill.
I like the body sliding to the bottom first, and then the head rolling afterwards.
Yes.
That's fun.
And then the shot of both of them with the head next to the body. And I like the other bully. He's really screaming his head off. So good performance from that guy.
Billy doesn't kill the second bully, right?
Not that we see. We see him kind of holding the axe, and then we cut away.
Uh-huh.
So I think it's implied that he kills him, but we don't see it.
Okay.
Yeah. But then there's the shit where they're like, okay, Billy's going to go to the orphanage next.
Then we have the orphanage. And I do love this cop showing up and blowing away this Santa that's shown, like, has just shown up to, you know, I think he's like their Santa for Christmas. That's gonna.
He's Father O'Brien, they say. So the cop knows they're looking for a guy.
Oh, that's right. In the second movie, they changed it.
They call him the janitor.
Call him the janitor.
Why the fuck did they demote the Santa who got murdered from
I don't know.
Father O'Brien to janitor Kelsey?
They also changes. Ricky's last name.
It's so weird.
It's
like
weird.
The shit that they chose to change is so weird. But yes, in the first movie, they call him Father O'Brien, right? And when they get the news and like the cop who shot him, like. Delivers the news, like the physical description of the guy that they shot. Sister Mary's like, oh God, Father O'Brien, he was the Santa this year. And so all of these kids just witnessed a cop murder the priest from their orphanage in front of them. And then Mother Superior brings them all inside and is like, you know what would cheer us up? Some Christmas carols. Let's all sing together. And all these traumatized, dead-eyed children have to sing like fucking Deck the Halls or whatever.
And Santa's going up to Ricky.
Yeah.
And the second movie frames that as like kind of the inciting incident for Ricky's psychosis,
right?
You know?
Because he sees this guy reaching out to him, and then that guy gets blown away.
But then we spend so much time, with this cop fucking around these grounds, you know, like looking for Billy.
It's really unconscionable how long this takes because it's like. The movie thinks that it's doing this like tense thing where it's like this cop's wandering these grounds. Billy's gonna be somewhere. Where is he? And the whole time I'm just like, I'm so fucking bored. I'm so bored.
he fully wanders down to this like this shed that leads to this like basement. Wanders around this basement for a couple of minutes,
and then goes back out of the basement,
and then gets killed. In the doorway of the shed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's of course how that was going to happen.
Yeah, there's no reason for the sequence to be this.
Why is this an uninterrupted like 5-minute sequence in the movie?
It absolutely no idea. But you know what is funny is when he shows up before he murks the Santa Claus, the grounds on this at this orphanage are like there's like this shitty like half melted like barely any snow on the ground, which by the way the kids are like having a snowball fight with, which is fucking disgusting. But the exterior shots of everything and like when he comes out of the basement and everything are that. And then when he's driving the car, there's like 1.5 foot of fresh snow on the ground. It's just very funny. Like it's a charming little low budget movie. Like they filmed this after a big snow and then that when it was like fucking melting or whatever. But he gets iced here. This kill is kind of nothing. He just gets axed and falls down the stairs.
There's some fun squibs when he gets hit in the chest with the axe, but it's not nothing special. I do really like the shot of the snowman that the kids had built. And then the axe coming up with blood dripping off of it, and then he turns it sideways and then walks up to the snowman and
cuts the head off.
Snowman. That's a fun image.
It is. Sorry, I keep forgetting funny things about this priest getting murdered. They also mentioned that the reason that he didn't obey the cops' instructions to like stop and put his hands up is because he's deaf. And I was like, Jesus, like. Not only did this guy murder a priest in front of a bunch of kids, but it was a deaf priest. And, the way police forces work, this guy's getting, 9 weeks of paid leave, and then he's going to be right back on the force. Probably get a promotion.
and
actually, he gets killed, but
he doesn't. He gets killed with an axe. In fact, I do like when Mother Superior is like, fuck off, you've caused nothing but problems here. Now we're going to sing our Christmas carols. And that's when he starts wandering off.
Anyway, but yeah, so Billy walks in as they're singing Christmas carols, and he's here for Mother Superior. He's like, "You and me, old disabled woman."
Because a kid lets him in.
Yes,
a kid lets Santa and lets him in.
And then this kid is like standing next to him holding his hand. And Mother Superior is like, "Get over here right now. Get away from that man." And she's like, "But it's Santa Claus."
Well, wait, when he gets up, Mother Superior is like, "Get back here. We need altos." And I'm like, this is not... These kids, you don't need... No.
Yeah. Also,
these kids are just singing out of tune.
Yes.
And they're bad. You know, it's not like
and
a choir
the shots
practice.
of them singing, almost none of these kids' mouths are actually moving. Most of them are just like sitting dead-eyed with open mouths.
Oh, yeah. They look like
they're
not
singing.
Even like... They look like they're singing with guns to their heads.
Yeah.
Just like we just witnessed a man get shot in front of us, and now we have to sing Deck of the Halls.
And the guy who murdered him is wandering the grounds. But yeah, so Billy has kind of a face off with Mother Superior here. She kind of is like standing up to him verbally, but also like she's in a wheelchair, she's old, there's not much she can physically do against him. So he raises the axe to kill her. I like that we see a moment of her accepting her own death. And like there's a shot of the axe being raised, and then it goes back to Mother Superior, and she kind of closes her eyes pensively and is like, "All right, Lord, I'm ready." And then Billy gets shot. Yeah, because more cops show up.
Slow motion.
Yeah.
And he drops the axe. The axe slides over to Ricky, and Ricky looks at it, then looks up at Mother Superior and goes, "Naughty." And that's the end of the first movie.
Yes, that is the first film.
Should we talk about Billy? The performance of the guy playing Billy.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it?
I think he's a little like wooden and uninteresting in spots. I think he improves for me a lot once he goes Psycho Santa mode.
Mm-hmm.
I think before that, when we are seeing him like interacting with his toy store coworkers, and he's supposed to read as like a little bit more normal, and like there is some like big, you know, transition that happens in him. There's some big turn when he like goes Psycho Santa. I think because he's a little wooden early, the turn doesn't really work. He kind of just seems like the same guy the whole time.
Yeah.
But when he's like more in killer mode, he's being more sinister. He's doing some fun face acting. Like I like the like slow creepy smile he does a couple of times. And he does like pretty decent stuff with like the intensity of his eyes, like shit like that. So I think he's passable. I think he's all right.
Yeah,
he's good in spots and not so good in others.
I just looked up his name. His name is Robert Brian Wilson.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think he's doing what the movie asks of him. The role isn't written very well.
Right.
But he's sort of making the most out of it. There's a good physical performance in the Santa suit.
Yeah.
And good facial expressions. I just wanted to like make sure we talked about him a bit, because now we're on to Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2, and we have to talk about the protagonist of that film.
Yes.
Ricky, played by Eric Freeman.
Yes, I do prefer this performance to Billy in 1. I think both of them are kind of suited to the movie that they're in.
Yeah.
Because 1 is more serious and kind of darker and meaner and bleaker, like we said. I think the like less over the top performance in Billy works and is the right way to go. I feel like if his performance had been more over the top, it kind of would have clashed with the vibe of the movie. But Ricky in 2 is my preferred performance. It is exactly what the movie needs, which is it's fucking insane and over the top and ridiculous, and it's very, very fun to watch.
It is marvelous shit.
Yes, it's a delight to just witness.
Yeah. So this second movie opens with Ricky in a mental hospital.
Yeah.
Relaying the events of the first movie to this psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And what this movie does is get through the first of the events of the first movie so well and efficiently. It just is like, we're going to hit the big moments and hit the kills.
Yeah.
We're going to trim all the fat out of this bitch.
Yeah.
And then every few minutes, we're going to cut back to the mental hospital, and Ricky's going to just do some more insane line deliveries.
Yeah.
Like, people talk about Garbage Day.
Yeah.
Garbage Day's Garbage Day is great.
Garbage Day is probably the biggest one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Garbage Day is 100 times funnier when you see it in context by watching the rest of the movie first.
1000%. Yeah. It's funny as a meme. It's way funnier when you've been with Ricky for like an hour at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't disagree with you that I think the recap stuff is like pretty well done. I do think, and I will admit, this is probably symptomatic of me watching these movies back to back, where I just watched the first one and immediately watched the second one.
Yeah.
That being said, I still don't think it's an unfair criticism to say I think it's still too long. You know, I think 30 minutes of recapping that first movie is still too long, and they could have cut shit. Because again, the fucking dad being dressed up as Santa Claus and mistaken by the cops joke is in its entirety in the recap in part 2. And like there's moments like that where I'm like, just get rid of this shit. Like you said, all the fat was cut, and I was like, I don't think it was all the fat. I think we could have cut more of this.
We probably could have cut the dad stuff. But I also think like a lot of the scenes are edited down pretty significantly.
Yeah.
Like we're getting a lot of quicker cuts. It has a much quicker pace to it.
I think we still spend too long at that orphanage though, because it's like we got to see the Santa picture and him getting tied down and him getting hit with a belt and him seeing the couple fucking and getting yelled at for it.
Right.
And it's like one of those things would suffice, and I would understand, okay, this traumatizing thing happened. He had a bad experience at this orphanage. Like, let's fucking move on. And in both movies, we spend way too much time on it.
Okay. I also think, though, that it pairs well with the new footage that they shot for the second half of the movie when Ricky's telling his story.
Yeah.
Because the footage that they shot is also pretty, like, briefly sketched moments and vignettes.
Yeah.
And they're all edited really quickly. So like the first time I watched it, when we got to the new footage of Ricky, I didn't, having not seen the first one, it didn't really feel that jarring to me. It picked up really nicely. Like I felt like we hadn't skipped a beat between the events of the first movie and the second movie.
Yeah. I do think they recast the kid who plays young Ricky for the flashbacks to make him look more like Eric Freeman.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of recasting in these fucking movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is a new kid.
Is the nun recasted? And I just thought it was the same lady. I just thought
Mother Superior's recast for sure.
I thought but Sister Mary I thought was the same. It doesn't matter. Anyway, there's a decent amount of like, oh, that's okay. Yes, I now know who that is. Mm-hmm. It just took me a second because that's a totally new face.
But a lot of the stuff with Ricky interacting with the psychiatrist is just great shit. It's when we cut back to him.
Yeah.
Who killed your parents? Santa Claus. And there's multiple moments where the psychiatrist gets like caught up in his notes, and then Ricky like surprises him out of
he'll just appear in frame like next to his ear and be like, "What you writing down there, Doc?" It's insane. He is playing this performance is like he is in an exorcism movie and he is supposed to be possessed by a demon. Like that's sort of how he is delivering all of his lines.
Yeah. This is a very similar performance to Mark Soper as Terry in Blood Rage. But like times 10.
Yes.
Like this is a master class in overacting.
Yes. Fuck off, Doc. When we first meet him, by the way, like before the recap starts, we do get his awesome fucking stare down with this orderly. Ricky is this orderly's Joker. Like
this orderly has no lines of dialogue, and you can tell he fucking hates Ricky's guts.
If he wouldn't face any legal repercussions from doing so, he would murder this man immediately. He's like looking at him like, I hope you fucking die, you piece of shit. But yeah, sorry, I was looking to see if I wrote down any Ricky gems from this interview with the doctor bit, and one that really got me was when the doctor asked some question about his sleep, like how you been sleeping or whatever, and he's like, I don't sleep. Just like, fucking insane shit.
Yeah. So Ricky runs through the events of the first movie, and then we catch up with Ricky's story.
Yeah.
I think this movie reframes the ending of the Santa Claus getting shot.
Yeah.
Ricky thinking that it's Billy, and
Yes.
he thinks that he just saw his brother get shot.
Yes. Which then is confusing because then the end bit with the other Santa getting shot doesn't really make a ton of sense. But
Yeah.
Whatever.
He
yeah.
grows up with a new family.
Yes, he gets adopted. This is where, like, there's a moment in the street where we see his fear of red. He sees something red, and it sends him into, like, total, like, Santa trauma.
Yeah.
But also, there's, like, some fun shots of just nuns being spooky.
Yeah, because he's also scared of the nuns.
Yes. And so we just get, like, spooky, haunting music and, like, slow-motion nuns walking, which is very fun. I think this movie's, like, decently well shot for, like, what it is. And like some of the shots of like the nuns and shit, I was like, okay, like you're doing something there.
Yeah, I mean, I called Silent Night, Deadly Night 1 a real movie.
Yeah.
This is not a real movie.
Yes, which is why I said decently shot for what it is.
For what I do think this movie is making the best of a bad situation.
Right.
Where they have all this leftover footage. They don't have enough of a script to make a full movie with the new material.
Yeah.
So they Frankenstein it together. And again, I think there's a lot of clever tricks that they use to make it work with the pacing, and like what I said before, where we're intercutting footage from the last movie and the new footage in the asylum, and Ricky is like acting out. He's reliving those moments.
Yeah.
And again, I think this movie is just like a mile a minute good time. Like it's just hit after hit after hit after hit.
It really does.
Me.
It really does. Once you're through the 30-minute recap, especially if you've already seen the first movie, once you're through that, it really does just move after that.
Yeah.
Like the pacing's pretty good, and the pacing in the montage bit is pretty good as well. It's just harder to appreciate the pacing when it's just literally what you've exactly just watched, which again is a me problem. Yeah, so we see that he's traumatized as a child, and he's living with this new family now. There's like some shit where his like adoptive mom goes and like talks to a therapist or whatever, and is like, he's still not okay or whatever. And then it like we see him grown up like pretty immediately. We don't spend a ton of time with Kid Ricky.
His adoptive father dies. It's just him and his mom, and yeah, it's yet another kid playing Ricky, who again also just looks like an adult at this point.
Yeah,
it's funny. I think he's like 15 or something in this, and then later it cuts to when it catches up to Eric Freeman playing Ricky.
Yeah,
it's only like 3 years later,
right.
And he looks totally different.
Right. He not only did he have a growth spurt, but he also like got facial reconstructive surgery and took anabolic steroids.
Oh my god, he's fucking jacked in this movie.
Both Billy and Ricky, both of the actors who play the adult ones, are like big. I kind of think that's, at least if these two movies are to be believed, sort of the thing with this franchise is, what if a jacked, handsome young man was insane and evil and dressed up as Santa Claus?
Yeah.
Because both of them are like fucking yoked.
Yeah.
Later on when he's wearing that polo and you can see his bicep veins, I was like, holy shit, man. It was so easy to get gear in the 80s.
So Ricky is like taking a walk, and he finds some 40-year-olds that are supposed to be teenagers. This woman, this lady playing what I am assuming is like a teenage girl.
Yes.
Straight up looks like a 40-year-old woman in a wig.
This guy looks 40 years old too. This guy whose name is Eddie. And he is, first of all, he demonstrates through a line of dialogue that he understands what consent is, because he's trying to get hot and heavy with this lady, and she's like, not saying no, but also kind of like turning away. Mm-hmm. And he's like, you have to tell me I'm allowed, or I'm not gonna, right? And I'm like, okay, so you have literally said what the dictionary definition of consent is, and then immediately he's like, never mind, I'm gonna rape you. which is insane. But when he's like putting the moves on her, she goes, "Eddie, you are such a pig," and he says, "Yeah," and then he sips his Tecate, which is just a great moment.
Yeah. And
He's also wearing a Canadian tuxedo, by the way.
Oh,
I feel like that's worth
there's
mentioning.
the bully in the last movie's got a Canadian tuxedo too.
Hell yeah.
Ricky sees them and is also triggered by this guy's red Jeep.
Yeah.
And then the guy leaves his girlfriend.
Right. He is dissuaded from fully sexually assaulting her.
Right.
And instead decides he needs another Tecate from the back of the Jeep.
And then Ricky runs him over with his own Jeep.
Yeah.
Backs up and runs him over again, and just keeps doing that. Just keeps going back and forth over this guy's body.
I love that in a movie when we're running over someone not once, not twice, but multiple times.
It is fucking hilarious. And then he gets out of the Jeep, and then the girlfriend walks over to him and looks at him and just goes, "Thank you."
Which is fair. I mean, Eddie was a real scumbag. He deserved it. I wish we saw that. I really wish we saw at least like some shots of tires going over Eddie, because you don't see any of it.
Yeah,
and that's a real bummer for me.
I think maybe they were trying to skirt around controversy in this one.
I know,
just like,
but if you're making a schlocky horror movie,
I know,
you know,
and
we have some gore later, so it's not like they totally dodged it. I would have liked to see one shot of a tire going.
I don't know. They had 10
10
days to shoot this fucking thing.
That's
man.
true. That's true.
Like,
yeah,
I wish it was there too. I don't think the scene is hurt without it though.
Yeah,
I think this movie delivers. I fucking love this movie. I'll just get it out there.
yeah.
I think the second movie fucking rocks.
Yeah.
I think it's. I like this scene too because it does set a tone. I think the asylum scenes are silly and campy, but what we're seeing from the first movie isn't necessarily as campy as the asylum stuff.
Yeah.
So this being Ricky's first kill, I think it sets the tone for the rest of the movie going forward.
Right. That it's like a little bit goofier and broader.
Yeah, we're having more fun with it.
Right. Yeah. Do we then? The next note I have is about this bookie beating this guy up. Do we have anything in between? Like, there's a little bit, right?
There's a little bit back at the asylum where we see a shot of what the therapist has been writing, and he writes "red car" and exclamation point,
yeah.
and then
right.
Ricky leans over and goes, "Red car, good point."
And then he's continuing to recount his memories, and it's very funny that Billy is in all of these memories recounting stuff that he also wasn't there for. Or Ricky, sorry, I said Billy.
It's okay. They're similar names, but
like the stuff from the first movie and in the scene with the bookie beating the guy up and stuff. It's just like, how the fuck would you know any of this happened? Because it's like literally before you entered the scene. But that aside, this bookie beating this guy up is fucking hilarious. It's very funny. Where he's like, hey, you know what? And the guy's like, what? And he just punches him in the gut. It's so fucking funny.
You know what? It'd be nice if you don't pay me so then I could beat your ass. Or he says something like that.
Yeah.
And then Ricky picks him up and like throws him against a wall and then impales him. Okay. Impales him with an umbrella and the umbrella unfolds.
Yes. This is a good one.
That is an all-timer. That's an all-timer kill, buddy.
An all-timer kill. This is not gory enough to be an all-timer kill. It's a good kill. I give this one a 7.5 out of 10.
7.5. I fucking love it, man. It's probably not top 10, but if you made like a top 50, it's on there.
There's not even a close-up of it going in. It's just all wide shot, and it just like goes through and then pops up.
But I like it holding on the bloody umbrella at the end.
I like that too, and I like that it starts raining immediately after. That's also fun. It's a good kill.
Can you name another movie where a guy gets impaled with an umbrella?
No, but there's lots of unique to one specific movie kills, and they're not all 10 out of 10.
All right. Well.
I've never seen anybody else get fucking stabbed through the throat with an arrow from under a bed like in Friday the 13th, but that one is still probably not a 10 out of 10 for me. It's all right. It's pretty good.
All right. Yeah, it's great. It's great. I love it. I love it so much. He has a girlfriend.
Yeah.
And their meet cute is her running him over with her car.
Yes, which it's so funny when she fucking like knocks him off his motorcycle and he's like all pissed, and then she like walks up to him and just kind of looks at him and doesn't say shit, and he's like, "Pretty girl, I forgive you."
Yeah, she just laughs at him. She just giggles.
Yeah, she does.
And it's like,
she's like, "Oh, it's so funny that I just hit you with my car."
and then their next scene is them riding on his motorcycle together.
Yeah, it's funny that he looks like a 50s greaser too. That is
Oh,
funny.
Yeah. He's really rocking the greaser look.
Yeah, so they're like dating, and some of the stuff with the doctor at the asylum, like the voiceover here is like him talking about how, you know, he never wanted to hurt her and she was the one good thing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And we see them that they have sex, and he makes a big point of being like, "It was my first time and I thought it was hers." And I was like, okay, well, I know where this is going.
Yeah. Then we have the movie theater scene. And
yes.
The trailer, okay. We don't see what they're watching until we get the footage of the convenience store robbery from the first movie, which is they're acting like it's a new movie or whatever.
Yeah,
it's so stupid.
It's
and like
so the moment when they started showing the first movie scenes from the first movie that are in the montage at the beginning of this movie.
Yeah.
Again in the movie.
No, they don't show the robbery. They don't show the robbery in the montage at the beginning.
Oh, they don't?
No.
Oh, okay.
The robbery is completely cut out.
Okay.
And they just run into Santa on the side of the road.
But
even the first time I saw it, I was like, I'm pretty sure this is from that first movie.
The moment when that starts happening is the moment where my third eye opened and I just like was like, oh, this movie is fucking insane. Because like they're just showing the first movie in the movie. Like it like canonically exists in universe. The trailer before they start watching Silent Night, Deadly Night 1, though, is for a movie called Chaos.
Yes, I wanted to talk about that.
Yes.
Because you just hear the audio of the announcer and it goes, chaos, more action, more death, and more destruction than any film you've seen before. Sounds like a good fucking movie.
Yeah, I would go see Chaos.
I'd watch the fuck out of Chaos.
I also feel like the real life Chaos is Stone Cold, a movie that we've already covered.
That's
on the
true.
podcast.
Stone Cold is like the final boss of action movies.
Stone Cold could have alternatively been titled Chaos.
Like if you can find an action movie that's crazier than Stone Cold, send us an email at thegreatestmoviepodcast@gmail.com and we'll watch it.
Please. We are begging you if you know of a movie crazier than Stone Cold. Yeah, I would also see Chaos. Also, during the trailers, these two fucking punks, and I say punks quite literally, they are costumed to be like punks, right? Like it's the beginning of the Terminator. They're sitting at the back of this movie theater, and during the trailers, these assholes start chanting for the movie to start, and I'm like, bitch, have you literally never been to a movie theater before? I also understand that, like, at the time, there was, like, actually a guy in the projection booth who was technically capable of skipping the trailers or speeding them up or whatever, but it's like, they're not gonna do that. But these assholes are like, movie.
The main guy I wrote down. I just called him a rat fuck.
Yes,
I feel like that describes him very well.
Yeah,
the other guy he's sitting
sort of
with,
a proto Matthew Lillard type.
Yeah,
where he's doing lots of
yeah,
shit, you know,
or the kid in fucking Fright Night that gets vampirized.
Yeah.
The other one. I
Yes.
call him a rat fuck.
Yes.
It's a certain type of person, certain genre of person.
A certain type of rat fuck. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I guess I lumped Matthew Lillard into. Sorry to call you a rat fuck, Matthew Lillard, but also like,
you know, he's a rat fuck in that first Scream movie. You know.
Yeah. He's a rat fuck in lots of his movies.
The other guy that he's sitting with that doesn't cause as much of a fuss. I guess that's the director of this movie.
Oh wow!
In a cameo.
Huh.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the rat fuck is being especially annoying.
And there are 6 people in this movie theater, so it's like he has seen the whites of the eyes of every single person he's bothering.
Yeah, the other people are like a middle-aged couple.
Yeah.
And it's like, why are these people watching Silent Night, Deadly Night 1? Why did they go to see this movie about a killer Santa Claus?
Well, Mother, looks like the only movie playing this evening is this Silent Night, Deadly Night. Did you want to go to see that, or switch the plans to Parcheesi at the at the VFW?
So they watched the first movie in the theater. I do like.
It's so insane they watched the first movie in the theater.
Oh, I love it so much.
Especially because it had such a limited theatrical run. They really are making a narrow window here. Anyway.
Yeah. I like Ricky finally snaps, and he's talking to his girlfriend. His girlfriend's hanging on him and all that shit.
Yeah, he's like, sorry, I have to go decompress. I'm watching a movie based on my life somehow.
Yeah. He gets up and just goes, punish, and just makes his way to the back row.
Every time either of these motherfuckers whip out a punish, I'm having such a good time.
And then Chip shows up, and Chip is a similarly rat fuck type character.
Yes.
Just pops up behind his girlfriend.
I would say a Sid Vicious type asshole.
Oh yeah. And his girlfriend is at the movies with him.
Yes.
And she's like, and Ricky's girlfriend is like, what about her? And he's like, oh, her? Yeah, she's okay.
Yeah.
And she's like actively staring at him like, what are you doing talking to this chick? Come back to your seat right now.
Like, she can hear you. But yeah, apparently they had a thing. He fooled around a little bit, and he's like trying to get her to come back to him. He's like, hey, ditch this enormous fucking linebacker jock you're with and fuck me and my weird teeth again and my bad bleach job. But yeah, eventually she gets him to pound bricks.
Mm-hmm.
And Ricky comes back, and
Ricky kills the guy in the back.
Oh, that's right. He kills the punks. Yeah.
So the main guy is like, it's like keeps leaning over and talking to the director of the movie.
Yeah.
And it's classic rule of threes. He leans over and talks to him, leans over and talks to him, leans over, and then Ricky's sitting there.
That is a really funny gag. I like that a lot.
And then the only thing we see is this guy's legs flailing up at the seat underneath,
and a bunch of popcorn flying everywhere. Yeah,
he's just poof, and he's dead.
Yeah, and then Ricky goes back to his seat because he has satiated the urge to punish.
Yeah, and his girlfriend's like, "Oh, let's go," and he's like, "No, I'm beginning to like this picture."
Also, in this instance specifically, Ricky did nothing wrong because that guy was being fucking annoying at the movie theater, and that's what should happen to everyone who does that.
Yes.
If you're being this much of an insufferable little fuck at a movie theater, I think it should be legal to murder you.
Yes, I think this is an excellent scene.
It's good. It's a good one.
This and then Ricky's GTA rampage is just a delicious little two-hander.
Yeah,
a delicious little 1-2 punch from this movie.
Because basically, like, the next thing that happens, I think there's like maybe another scene with the doctor interspersed in here or something.
Yeah.
But basically the next thing that happens is like Ricky and his girlfriend are walking, and this fucking Sid Vicious rat fuck comes up and just starts talking his shit again.
Yeah.
Right? And he mentions a thing about how him and Ricky's girlfriend, I think her name's Jenny, like fooled around, like how they fucked before. Mm-hmm. And this was information that Ricky did not know, and it causes him to go into a blood rage. So this guy has been talking a shit ton, and he's like, hey, I'm gonna stop your fucking tongue with this jumper cable. And then what happens, David?
He electrocutes him with the car battery.
And his eyeballs explode.
Yeah.
Which rocks. I like that he's wearing sunglasses here, which helps them do the effect more realistically. Mm-hmm. I like that how the sunglasses get on his face is he's been like talking shit to the two of them, and at some point Jenny like falls over. I don't remember what happens, like maybe he pushes her or something, and he goes, oh, falling for me again, puts on sunglasses while he says the punchline. So and then these sunglasses fucking explode when his eyeballs pop.
Good looking fake head too.
Yeah, it's good.
For I mean, it is obviously a fake head,
Mhm.
but for the budget this movie had and the time constraints and all that, decent looking fake head.
And the electrocuting effect is like pretty good.
Yeah,
And when his eyeballs explode, the effect's pretty good.
yeah, really rad kill.
My favorite kill in the movie, easily and definitely the goriest one.
Okay,
I think.
I
Right?
think it's up there for me. Yeah, it's one of the goriest ones. Yeah, it's the goriest one. The second goriest would be Mother Superior at the end, probably.
Yeah.
And then he strangles his girlfriend with he breaks the radio antenna off of this like Camaro or whatever that Chip is working on and strangles his girlfriend with it.
Yes, which is creative, but also like I just kind of wish that there was more gore in this movie, and it's a completely bloodless kill.
Yeah.
But it is creative.
Yeah. And thus begins the rampage.
Yes. So
his slowly walking rampage where he just goes naughty.
Yes. And
a cop shows up. It's literally like this movie's just feeding him bodies.
Yes.
It's just like, and then the cop shows up.
the skinniest, most unintimidating cop of all time. This guy is like short and also built like 5 toothpicks.
Oh yeah, and you can tell by the way that he's holding the gun.
He doesn't know how to use it. Yeah. And he's like, which is funny because he literally says, "I know how to use this."
And I'm like, "Do you?"
And then Ricky like twists his arms so that he shoots the gun into his own fucking head.
Yeah. I wish this was gorier. I'm a little surprised this isn't gorier.
Yeah. It's just kind of like the little dot on the forehead,
Mhm.
one trickle of blood.
Yeah.
Which we get a couple of in the first movie too. But yeah, so then now Ricky has a gun.
Now he has a gun. This is the first 5 minutes of his GTA game.
He has now reached his final form,
where
which
you
is gun.
pick a fight with a cop so you can get a gun.
Yes, and he just becomes a spree shooter. He just goes on a shooting range.
The first guy he kills runs out of his house and is like, "Quit making so much fucking noise," and then he gets shot.
And Ricky goes, "Punish!" Bang. And then it's garbage.
Then
day.
it's garbage day. I mean, I don't know that we need to get into it. You've seen the clip. It's
Garbage day.
garbage day.
It is what it is.
It knocks him dead every time.
Yes, great moment of this movie, and I completely agree. Way better when you've seen the rest of the movie leading up to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he just kind of continues the rampage. The cops eventually catch up to him. He gets surrounded by police.
Oh,
wait.
We need to talk about this car flip. Did you see this car flip?
Yes. Yeah. You're right.
So there's this car's driving down the
Sorry, I watched this movie like an hour ago. I'm not sure why I'm forgetting so much.
It's okay. It happens to me too.
Yeah.
This car flip is fucking nuts. This car's driving down the road. He shoots the driver. It goes off of this dirt.
Yeah.
And
it rolls over multiple times.
It rolls inches from this stunt guy's shoulder.
Yeah.
You can clearly tell it's a stunt guy.
Yeah.
It's a guy with a black kind of afro thing, black frizzy hair. It looks totally different from the actor.
Yeah.
But this car almost hits this stunt guy, and it is fantastic. And then it flips over and blows up.
Yes. So literally at the exact moment that I was thinking in my brain, this car has to explode. That is the exact moment it exploded, where I was like, this thing fucking better. And then it immediately did. And I was like, okay, this is how I know this movie is on the wavelength of B-movie schlock lovers like myself, is that the exact moment when you're like, if they don't do this, and then they do it.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's absolutely no reason for it to explode,
No.
which makes it better.
It explodes not even when it has landed on its roof. It lands back on its tires and then explodes.
Yeah.
It's so awesome. It's so good.
Yeah.
Good explosion too. It's totally practical. They just blew up a car, and
Yeah.
it looks great.
Man, I miss when we did that.
Yeah.
And then he has the face off with the police.
Right. And then he goes to shoot himself in the head and pulls the trigger, and he is out of bullets because it's a 5 or 6 shooter, right? And so he He fully was going to go through with it. And he's like, yeah, so that's how I wound up in this mental institution, Doc. Not enough bullets in that gun. They should have let me do it. And then it pans over. And as he has been regaling us with all of this shit, he has also strangled the guy's like using like a reel-to-reel tape recorder to record their interview. He's just strangled him with the tape from the tape recorder, and this guy's just fucking dead on the table, which that reveal is both like an effective like kill reveal and also a pretty funny joke.
Yeah.
At the same time, and I'm like, I appreciated that. It's a good little moment.
Yeah, I also like when he breaks out off screen too. You just hear audio. I'm like, oh no, Ricky, what are you doing? Get back here!
Yeah.
and then there's this Salvation Army Santa, and this is all completely off screen too, where it just pans over and you see like the sign and the bucket for food.
Yeah.
And you just hear him off screen like ringing the bell and being like, donations for the poor.
Yeah.
And you hear Ricky kill him off screen, and then it pans over to him in the suit in a phone booth, looking up the address for Mother Superior so he can call her and taunt her. And I think like this is another example of, them sort of making the best of their resources, because I think the shot is really well done.
Yes. Yeah, I completely agree. I think both of those reveals of those off-screen kills didn't bother me that the kill was off-screen because the way it was presented was good enough, right? I think both of them are like well executed, like off-screen kills that didn't have me being like, oh, I wish there was more gore here. Yeah. So then it is funny when they're like, talking about, it cuts to like the police or something, and they're like, oh, now that he's escaped, he's gonna be after Mother Superior, and one of the cops is like, well, we'll have to find her first because she had a stroke and retired and is living on her own. And then it's like, oh yeah, the way he finds her is by looking her up in the phone book immediately. Like it takes him no time. So he shows up at this old lady's house. Why the fuck does her face look like this?
I think that's supposed to be the stroke.
It looks like she has been Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah, she's fully got like that orc, like the head orc in Return of the King.
Yeah.
Who's like, I think his name's Gothmog.
Yes, which is
like,
name from a dragon in the Silmarillion.
Okay, nerd.
Or no, a Balrog. Sorry.
Nerd. Part of his face is like sort of like kind of like there's like fungus growing out of it. That's what this bitch looks like.
She looks like the Phantom of the Opera. She looks worse than the Phantom of the Opera.
And I think it's partially to cover up from the fact that this is a different actress playing Mother Superior, but you can still tell.
Also, she's an old lady in a habit, and they're calling her Mother Superior. Like, it's fine.
Yeah,
it's insane that like the stroke apparently made her face catch on fire.
It's also funny that her house number is 666.
Yes.
And they make a point of, first of all, like showing it when he shows up.
Yeah.
And then the aftermath, like the cops burst in, and I guess Sister Mary bursts in, and she like looks at it before she walks in the door.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ricky shows up, straight up does a here's Johnny, knocks down the door to her bathroom with the axe, or her bedroom with the axe, and like looks in and goes, Mother Superior, or something like that at some point in this, and then spends the rest of this chase again just slowly walking, taunting this old woman in a wheelchair throughout her house.
Yeah.
She tries to get, I love when she tries to get on her chair stair, stair chair. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah.
He comes at her with the axe, and she just rolls down the stairs in a way that probably should have really fucked her up. And then she just gets in her downstairs wheelchair and rolls away.
Yes. The wheelchair chase is fun. Him doing, I think, like 2 full here's Johnny's in this sequence, one at the front door and then one again like at the other door, is all very very silly.
Yeah.
I do like the bit where she like rams the door with her wheelchair so that she can turn the key in the lock and lock him out. Like that's all like fun little cat and mouse stuff.
Yeah. He confronts her, he kills her off screen.
And she's like, if you strike me down, in your hate, in all of your hatred. And yeah, so he kills her off screen, and since we don't see it, they do a little fake out here.
Yeah. When
Sister Mary and the cops show up, they like get to the house and open the door, and she's just sitting there in her wheelchair, and they're like, "Oh, like it's Mother Superior, like thank God you're all right," and then her head just fucking falls.
Just pretty rad.
It's nice. It's a nice one. It's like very easy to see it coming, but also like once it happens, you're like, thank you, yes.
Yeah. And then he springs up and they shoot him. I love that he's laughing while they're shooting him. It's so funny.
Mm-hmm.
He's so good. He's so committed to this performance. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And I think he like falls out the window into the yard or something.
Yeah. He like fully goes through the window. And then at the like in the last little moment here, like Sister Mary has like fallen to the ground and is like face to face with Mother Superior's decapitated head and just screams. And we see Billy like it looks like he maybe died after being shot and falling out the window, but he kind of like wakes up and smiles a little bit.
Yeah, it's a really, really quick ending. It's a little awkward.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's basically that, and then that's Silent Night, Deadly Night 2.
Yes. Silent Night, Deadly Night 1, but with a little more.
And boy, oh boy, does that little more make the difference.
It does, yeah.
So Justus, for the purposes of our verdict sheet, a yes on either of these films will count as a yes, but I would like to know, is Silent Night, Deadly Night 1 or Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2? I'm sorry, should I have said are Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 1 or Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2 the greatest movies ever made?
You know what? I can't keep the grammar Nazi bit up because I honestly can't tell you what is more correct.
Are either of these films or both of these films the greatest movie ever made?
David. So it was fun going back to Silent Night, Deadly Night 1. I'll start there. I maybe liked it more the first time I saw it because I just was going in cold, not knowing anything about it, and I appreciated the mean streak that movie has. I liked that it goes a little bit darker and it's like a little bit more moody and atmospheric than just kind of like a silly 80s cheeseball slasher romp. It definitely is still like a B or C tier slasher. It's like you're not breaking any new ground with that movie, but I like that it has like kind of a spirit behind it that feels like it's like, no, we're trying to like we're trying to put some like sinister vibes into this thing, and it feels like there's like a specificity of like artistic intent that like leads to that stuff, which I appreciate. I think it's like relatively well constructed. It looks pretty good most of the time. The actors range from like okay to quite good. Like I think the guy who plays Mr. Sims rocks, you know? So there's like lots of stuff to love. I really love the kills in that first movie. Like I said, it's the bloodier one and I really appreciated it. It on that level. The antler kill's good. The box cutter in the stomach is good. Like there's like decent ones sprinkled kind of throughout. But man, oh man, we just take so fucking long to get off to the races in that first movie. There's just so much fucking around at that orphanage. It's like 26 minutes of a movie that doesn't even crack 90 minutes. And I'm like, we should be moving way quicker than this. I felt that even more on second watch, right? Where I was like, this is kind of dragging in spots for me. It's dragging when that cop in the third act is just fucking around that orphanage for a while. And so there's like pacing problems that prevented me from like fully enjoying that movie the way that I enjoy some other like B-tier slashers like My Bloody Valentine, for example, right? Or Blood Rage. So I'm going to say no to Silent Night, Deadly Night 1. I think it's definitely a movie worth seeing. I think it's a fun, competent slasher that I liked a lot. But I'm not going to give it the greatest movie ever made. For Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, I thoroughly enjoyed the experience of watching this for the first time, right? The central performance is so fucking insane. And the movie is so crazy. It's just like it kind of doesn't really exist in the same realm as some other heavily memed, like one scene heavily memed movies like a Troll 2, right? Like it's actually a lot better than a So Bad It's Good movie. It's like decent. I think to your point, they made a pretty good movie under the conditions that they were making that movie, right? Having to reuse all this old footage and like having a really tight timeline to work on. The main gripe that I have is that I still think we take a little too long to get off to the races, right? We spend so much time in fucking Silent Night, Deadly Night 1 land, and even though I probably shot myself in the foot a little bit by watching these back to back, I think if you've seen the first one at all, going into the second one, it is a little bit of a slog to get through those first 30 minutes where we're just rehashing shit from a movie you've already seen, right? Even if it's been a little longer, I don't think that problem is solved. Yeah, like the pacing problem exists in both of these. I think they're both fun times. I think they're both worth seeing. I would say it's worth, in my opinion, watching the first one first and experiencing it for what it is, and not as a expedited recap and then as a whole movie. But you know, maybe that's my preference just because that's the order that I saw these in. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's funny. I don't think it's the greatest movie ever made. I wish it was gorier, and I wish the pacing was better. David, R is Silent Night, Deadly Night 1 and or 2 the greatest movies ever made?
So this is my first time with the first one, and it's a pretty hard no for me. I think this first one is entirely competent, fine, sort of charming. That's sort of all it is.
Yeah.
There's nothing in it that puts it over the top to the level of a My Bloody Valentine, like you said, or a Blood Rage, or a couple of the better Friday the 13th sequels or Nightmare sequels. It's fine. And I sort of I don't think it's an essential slasher by any means. There's some decent kills. There's some fun characters here and there, but God, it is a long 90 minutes to get through that movie. I think the psychological element of the Santa Claus killer is done way better in Christmas Evil. And just the mean streak, I think is done better in something like Black Christmas. But it's there. It's fun. It's fine. Not the greatest movie ever made. I think if you're going to watch a Christmas themed horror movie this year, put on Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, because Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, despite rehashing the first one, despite the limitations that it has, I think it makes a really good use of them. I think it gets through the first movie pretty well. It hits a lot of the major beats. It hits all of the kills. Sure, it's not as gory as the first one. But I mean, it gets us through the orphanage. It gets us through the toy store massacre, all in really, really quick succession, and then is occasionally interrupted by this beautiful masterclass performance from Eric Freeman as Ricky. That it makes going through that first movie again so much more tolerable and enjoyable, because you get to see his acting in between these scenes and his reaction to these events. I really can't emphasize like how off the wall crazy good this performance is.
It is really something to witness.
And the rest of the movie is fun, trashy, campy, hilarious shit. The Jeep kill, the whole movie theater scene.
The movie theater scene is a highlight for sure.
the rampage. I think the ending is good. I if there is a criticism I have actually of the second half, is that it doesn't have the Christmas theming woven throughout it as heavily.
Yeah, it's basically like he escapes from the mental institution and like suddenly it's Christmas.
Right. But I think it's just a really efficiently paced, well-made film despite its limitations. And I'm thinking about Blood Rage, and like Blood Rage has problems. Blood Rage has huge gaping flaws in that film.
Mm-hmm.
And if you had to ask me which movie I would rather rewatch right now, I would probably say Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, because despite having a lot of the same problems of Blood Rage, I think Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 is just more fun, more enjoyable, with crazy performances throughout it. And if Blood Rage is the greatest movie ever made, then I think Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 is the greatest movie ever made too.
Wow.
It's just a fucking ride, and I think if you are a B-movie connoisseur of any sort, you owe it to yourself to sit down and watch this movie.
I do agree with that. Ultimately, my recommendation for people is to watch both of them. But I agree with you. And even though it landed less well for me, like, I would personally say I would much rather rewatch Blood Rage right now than Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. It just hit better for me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, I still liked it. Like, I still had a great time, and I'm still happy I saw it. And I do think it is sort of essential viewing for the schlockheads among us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is
those
are
Don't you have an English degree?
I do. I do.
You're asking me about grammar.
I was never good at grammar. I was never good at that class.
Yeah.
Those are those movies.
Yes.
We're never going to talk about two movies in the same episode again on the show, probably.
You've made that decision. It actually didn't go as long as like most of our episodes.
That's sort of what I thought, but I did take like 2 pages worth of notes, and I was a little scared. So we got through them pretty quickly. Hey, tweet about the show, talk about the show, tell your friends about the show, leave us a review. That would be just wonderful. That would make our Christmas. That would make our garbage day.
Yes.
Merry Garbage Day.
Merry Garbage Day. Happy Garbage Day.
Merry Garbage Day to all, and to all a good punish. Justus, next week we're watching It's a Wonderful Life.
David, you have never seen the film It's a Wonderful Life.
I have not.
Starring James Stewart.
I do love Jimmy Stewart, though.
Yes. So
does he say oh golly in that?
Probably.
Okay.
If not, something very close to it many times. He is an oh golly ass motherfucker for the entirety of that film. We'll
be watching the heartwarming holiday classic.
Yes.
About a guy who considers killing himself.
Yes, about a guy attempting suicide. That's correct. I'm sure that will be totally healthy and fine for both of us.
But it is a nice vibe shift from our last 2 episodes, which have been much more transgressive holiday classics.
Yeah, but weirdly, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, Eyes Wide Shut might have been a little bit more of an upper,
more Christmassy
than It's a Wonderful Life at spots. Because, that movie, it's family friendly, but it does get a little bleak at times.
Yeah.
Which you'll get to experience for the very first time next week. It'll be very interesting to hear your thoughts on that movie, because I was raised on that movie, so I can only think of it as like a movie that I first saw so long ago that I literally can't remember. But for more on that, tune in next week.
Yeah, join us next week for Jimmy Stewart and some Christmas cheer.
Oh, Violet! Oh.
Well, lots of Jimmy Stewart voices on that episode,
yeah.
I'm sure. Until then, we love you so much. And as always, later, dipshits!
We hope you enjoyed this episode of The Greatest Movie Ever Made. Please remember to leave us a rating and a review, and to subscribe to the show wherever you listen. We appreciate you supporting the show and spreading the word. Tell your friends to listen, tell your enemies to listen, tell your mom to listen. If your neighbor has an unsecured Bluetooth speaker, connect to it and play an episode. You can follow us on social media at TGMEM_podcast. And if you've got a movie that you want us to talk about, send us an email at thegreatestmoviepodcast@gmail.com.